Hi, everyone. Welcome to the Honeyflow show. I'm really excited again to bring on this next guest. Extra special, you guys. He's, got a great story behind him. So I can't wait to actually, listen to some of his story and his background and where he came from. He's a great artist. Had a chance to check out his music earlier today and see his show a few times as well. He's opened up for legendary acts like De La Soul, Method Man, Mos Def, and many more artists. He's been a creative director of a marketing and advertising company as well, and he's got a lot of extensive history too with graffiti, breakdancing, and just being in the scene as a DJ over the years. I've interviewed a lot of people, and it's interesting to hear their stories, especially if they've been an artist or DJing since the 80s. They have a lot of rich experience we could all learn from. So let's definitely bring him in. Jacewonmusic as well. It's going to be great, checking him out and just hearing more of his story. So let's bring him in right now. Make sure you guys say hi. Make sure you guys are following him as well. So let's see here. Hey, how you doing?
Hey, not bad,
Again,
not bad.
not bad.
Yeah, again, right?
Yeah. Have you done a
Nick,
lot of talk shows? I'm curious.
back in the day, yeah.
Oh,
When I
back
was
in the
more in
day.
the circuit, doing it on a regular basis, I was definitely interviewed. But back then, before the internet was really a thing, it was more about magazines. There wasn't podcasts. I was behind the radio scene or in the radio scene as a music programmer, not programmer, librarian, but that wasn't really being interviewed. That was me, just dealing with music.
Yeah, you could tell you have a radio voice. That was the first thing I noticed when I
Mm,
tuned into your show. I'm like, "Oh my gosh, this guy's got a great voice." Like,
thank you.
because there's DJs on here, but they may still be learning how to MC and host, but I could tell right when I heard your voice, I'm like, "This guy's definitely an artist as well," too.
Thank you for
So
that. Thank you.
yeah, for sure. So I'm curious, like just going back, your bio was really interesting to me as well. And so have you been actually DJing since the 80s, pretty much, or
I
just
would say
involved with
89,
music?
89, 90.
Oh,
Yeah,
wow.
yeah.
89,
The old school
90.
way though, crates, DJ in church halls, house parties, backyard boogies, all the West Coast, Southern California type of vibes. Yeah.
Oh, wow. Okay. Awesome. Oh, church halls. That's interesting. That's interesting. Were you guys just renting the hall or was it
Yeah,
like,
yeah, exactly. It
oh,
was
okay.
the cheapest place to rent.
Oh, it
We weren't
was.
far from the cloth, I'll tell you that though. All of us were raised, either Catholic or Christian growing up in certain areas, the areas I was from at least.
Oh, okay. Oh, that's
Yeah.
interesting. So going back like way, way back, because I definitely want to go through your bio like step by step because it's just such an interesting story to me. So you were actually raised in South Chicago, or you were born there,
No, I
was
was
it?
born out there. Yeah. I was born out there. We left quite early. Yeah.
Okay, and then you moved to LA, right? Or California?
Southern California. Yeah. North Orange County, South LA.
Okay, nice. All right. So, kind of what inspired you to just start DJing as well and getting into music?
Well, I came from a musical family. My father played, both my biological father and my stepfather were both involved in music. So music was always around. My mother always played music. She loved to sing. Up until I met my cousins who were outside of Illinois at the time, more specifically in Texas. They were the ones that really got me into hip hop, soul, R&B back then. That was like late 80s, well before the 90s, yeah. 85 to 89.
Okay. Nice. So your father was like a rock and roll musician? Like, was he like a
Yeah,
famous musician or like,
he's just another one of the independent guys in Chicago, the Chicago, Detroit, um, that circuit, if you will, kind of like the psychedelic 70s rock was what
oh,
he was really
okay.
into. Yeah.
Okay. And then were you surrounded by, so when you moved to California, did you, was your mom or anyone around you like heavy into music as well?
Yeah,
Like those,
when my mother went through the divorce and we ended up in SoCal, she had reconnected with a friend who was from Illinois, was part of that crew, if you will, the band. And long story short, they ended up getting together, and he became my stepfather. But he was more on the folk rock side, so we're thinking like Bob Dylan, Donovan, um, Arlo Guthrie, the more, I guess, soulful, folky rock. Yeah.
Okay. All right. So then I guess so in the 80s, I don't know if you would have been in junior high or high school, but how did you kind of immerse yourself into graffiti and the breakdancing scene as well?
Was the environments that we moved to. I don't remember much of the Chicago life. From what I heard, it was quite similar, but also quite different, musically and definitely music wise. We moved into what you would call, I guess, a brown neighborhood. So I was really influenced by Chicano culture, lowriders, pop locking, a little bit of b-boying, but a lot of graffiti, car culture, and that's where the church halls really came into play. There was a lot of party crews back then, late '80s, early '90s, and it would be these groups of guys and gals that would throw on parties in backyards, abandoned warehouses, church halls, and I was just a little scrappy, skinny white boy that would show up and offer to carry crates of records. Just listen more than I talked back then. Back then, because I talked too much. If anybody who knows my stream knows I talk a lot on my streams. So yeah,
Yeah, well, we all do. I'm a talker too,
it's our
and
stream,
I've
right?
heard you.
So
Yeah, I've heard you as well, but nothing wrong with that. Nothing wrong with that. So, what is your
right,
background actually? Because you said you were a white boy, but what
yeah,
exactly is your background? You could pass
Irish,
maybe even for
Scandinavian,
you could pass
yeah,
for Italian and even maybe Spanish. Maybe that's what I think.
yeah.
If you're
It's the skin tone. My mother had olive skin tone. She still does, of course. But we're what they call Black Irish. So they don't mean that as in black skin, but black hair, dark eyes is the term that they would give folks of that nature. Otherwise, red hair, green eyes was the standard out in Ireland back in the day, I
okay.
suppose. But yeah.
Nice. So when you were in the music scene, like early back in the 80s, were you accepted then? If you're saying you're kind of
Oh
like
no,
one of the few white boys out there, like
nope.
breakdancing, or did you have way more pressure to like prove yourself and kind of prove a spot, like dancing or just with the music, especially with hip hop?
There was no pressure. The pressure was all on me. Like it came from me because I just wasn't accepted, really.
Hmm.
So it
Interesting.
was, how much pressure am I willing to get into? How much pressure am I willing to take to prove to them that I was, part of the culture, if you will.
Hmm.
So
Wow.
all the pressure was it was my own, as the Buddhists say, we bring, or we're the ones that create our own misery. You can choose to think a different way or walk a different way, but if we choose to walk into the pressure, that's on us. So, but I was
Hmm.
okay with that because I was in love with the culture. I was in love with what I was seeing every day that I was outside. And being a kid of the '80s, they called us latchkey kids for the most part because our parents just weren't around and we didn't have the
Hmm.
internet really. So we were outside till the street lights came on. So when I was outside, it was prominently brown and black. So
Hmm.
uh, I didn't really see the difference because I just saw kids and adults acting and doing what I wanted to do or what I was doing. So I felt like I was part of the crew.
For sure. Isn't it crazy to think how young we were and how much we were outside, like late
Oh,
at night? Like our parents didn't even know where we were. We were just roaming around
mm,
for maybe 10 or 15 hours just on our own, doing our thing, like till late
yep.
at night. And now it's like if I see a kid alone in a playground, I'm like freaking out. Like, where's the parent? Where's the parent? It's just so
Yeah,
crazy
yeah,
how times have changed. But
absolutely.
definitely miss those days. How you doing, Junior? Good to see you. The first one in the building. Thanks for coming through as well. We appreciate you. And I'm sure people will start rolling in here and there as well too. So make sure everyone's adding Jacewonmusic as well. Really dope artist, and he does a great show. So definitely make sure you guys are adding him too. So yeah, so that's interesting, the 80s. So you've seen everything in DJing. Like, is there actually, do you remember your first pieces of equipment when you were
Oh
DJing?
yeah. Oh
Mhm.
yes, absolutely. I had borrowed it from my my aunt's organization. She worked for the Special Olympics for like 35 years, and they would get a lot of donations from all types of companies, brands, local organizations, and they would have, their, I wouldn't say parties, but more so their events. And one day I just asked, "Hey, could I borrow this stuff?" She's like, "Yeah, just, don't take the turntables." And immediately I just connected turntables with hip hop. And I'm like, actually, I'm just going to borrow those things. I'll bring them back. But yeah, I learned how to cut on that with a Gemini mixer that was just, it didn't really have a crossfader. Everything was really rough to try to learn what to do. So what I really focused on was house music at the time. A lot of the party joints or park joints, which was a lot easier to learn than, I guess, hip hop or soul or R&B, because it was, electronic. So the rhythm was really stable. So it was very easy to match beats together and learn how that, that part of the game worked.
Yeah, for sure. So was it like Radio Shack or Radio Shack mixer? Kind of sounds like one.
Yeah, a realistic was there's realistic mixers that I believe that was the brand that Radio Shack offered. But
Oh,
this particular one was a Gemini that I learned on, and then I
oh, okay.
graduated to Vestax, and of course Vestax pretty much ran the '90s for anybody who was a aspiring turntablist or hip hop DJ. The 2-channel, gold cover, black top, gold bottom, a lot of room for the
Wow.
crossfader to cut. So yeah, it was fun to watch the evolution for sure.
Do you still have any of those pieces of equipment?
No, I lost a lot. We were just talking to my buddy in LA this weekend. I had a gig out there, and we talked about the fire that I had in high school, and I lost a lot of stuff, from music to photos to VHS
Oh,
cassette tapes to, I
man.
mean, Jordans, like the OG Jordans. 'Cause being a kid from Chicago, no matter how young I was when I left, it was that one thing that I could really bring around my newfound crew and get respect for, because Jordan was so damn good.
Yeah,
So
for sure.
the Chicago kid. So I really attached to Chicago culture while living in Southern California, just because it felt like it was a way to get in the door.
We got Rob Boombastic in the building. How you
Oh,
doing, Rob?
shout
Good
out
to see you.
Detroit.
Yeah, good to see you as well. First time chatter. We got Junior, and we're still waiting for a few more people to filter in, but that's okay. So what could you say? Like, do you think it's a good progression, or do you think it's kind of spiraled backwards? Because it sounds like you were obviously a real turntablist DJ back in the day, and you've seen everything over the number of years since the 80s, right? Do you think with all this technology and everything that's happening, it's actually like good for the DJ culture, or do you think I w- before I say my opinion, I'm going to ask yours, but or do you think it's kind of gone a bit backwards, like maybe even kind of like with hip hop? I don't know. What do you think?
Yeah, I guess like you're saying, it could go either way. It depends on where you're from and when you entered the game, right? First and foremost, I don't consider myself a turntablist, and I never really aspired to be one because I was more into the music. I was more into the selection. I was more into it. Even leaked it in. It leaked into my career as a creative director for marketing agencies and advertising agencies. Was I wanted to observe more than interact. So I would sit in the back and I would listen and I'd watch. And I had a big homie, shout out Double D in West Anaheim. He used to give me the opportunity to carry his crates to his gigs, and that's all he would allow me to do. He would tell me too, as an OG,
Wow.
you're going to think that you should be getting paid. You'll think that you should be doing X, Y, Z, but I want you to watch. I want you to see what happens. I want you to see what I do. I want you to see how the crowd reacts to the music that I play. And he embedded in my brain, the worst thing that you could do is play a track that clears the dance floor. So you got to watch people's bodies, watch the language, watch what gets people motivated, see when the hands go up, see when people get up out of the seats, and take note. So mad early, I understood party rock joints, how to get people up out the seat. Even the wallflowers, we used to call them wallflowers. They'd be up against the wall, just too cool for school,
Oh
right?
yeah, that's
To
like every
dance.
day now.
Yeah. But back then,
Yeah.
hip hop was fun. So you throw on something by the Native Tongues, De La Soul, Jungle Brothers, Moni Love, Queen Latifah, and then even the house stuff, stuff that by way of where I came from connected me back to house music was Felix the House Cat. This arguably where house really found its roots. Chicago,
Mhm.
Midwest, New York, of course, as well, and I'm sure Canada as well. But Chicago was really big on house, so I don't know. I just learned to observe and see what made people move, and I never really got sucked into the turntable world. But I had a lot of friends that were really into it, so I understood hip hop as well. Saw it in the streets everywhere that you went. I gravitated more towards writing and b-boying at the time than anything else. But I was still DJing to learn the art and, to rock parties because everybody wanted to throw a party in the 80s and 90s. Everybody.
Mhm. What do you think you're most strongest in? Because you're pretty versatile. Local graffiti, breakdancing. You do a show. You're DJing. I've heard you freestyle. I'm like, whoa. I'm like, okay,
Yeah.
this guy can definitely flow. And you could tell, like with your writing, it's creative. And then just hearing some of your tracks definitely gives that Jay Dilla, like that, just that fun, like hip hop from back in the day, that type of vibe. Slum Village, that sort of thing. When I was listening to you, I was like, oh, wow, this is actually really, really good. So what would you say if you had to pick one, what would you say you're probably uh, really good at or is
MC,
strongest?
rapping,
MC?
rapping. Because that's the one thing that I really took off, didn't take off. I really focused on as I got older, late teen, early adult. DJing was always there. And even my buddy in LA that I linked up with this past week is arguably the king of hip hop events in LA. And the first thing he said when he saw me, I hadn't seen him in 6 years, since before the pandemic. He said, "So we're a DJ now, huh?" Because he never knew I DJ because they know me as the MC, and that's mostly what I was doing in LA in my adult years. But leading up to the MC stuff, well, let me take a step back. The progression was I started with the DJ stuff as far as music. We were still b-boying, we were still writing on walls, but I started to take the DJing seriously because most of my guys around my neighborhood were trying to throw parties, and I wanted to be the guy that played music for the homies. So I did that, got into radio, internship out of high school. Actually, my last year of high school, I got the internship, was at Cerritos College, met the Beat Junkies in 97, which is when they were formed. So shout out J-Rock, Melody, Redmatic, DJ Curse, Babu, all these DJs out of LA were rocking at this small junior college, Cerritos College. And I realized I want to be in this. I don't want to be in the front. Not necessarily shy, but I am reserved unless I know you. And these
Mhm.
guys were just killing it. So I said, I want to do this. So I looked into the program at Cerritos, and when I graduated high school, got in the radio production and programming courses, got an internship at the big radio station at the time, 92.3 The Beat. I evolved into their music librarian, had my manager, Tuala Sharp, shout out Tuala Sharp, Dorsey Levins. And I realized what the radio game was really about. It was about advertising. And payola at the time was at an all-time high. There was a reason why we were hearing TLC at the top of the hour every hour. It wasn't because it was great music. It was because they were paying to be played. And that was my first taste of the music business, like the real music business. So I took a step out of radio, step back from DJing as well. And I said, I think I can make better music. I think I can make music that can actually want to be played on radio without having to pay for it. Long story short, that's not how it worked. So as you saw in the bio, a lot of those moments where I was like, oh man, this ain't built for me. So I took a break, and then, the rest is history. Yeah.
Oh man, I could
I
definitely
got
so
family
relate.
chat.
Yeah, I was gonna say, Inked Sweetheart, good to see you. We got Icy Vamp that came in earlier. Rob Boombastic, DJ Amber as well, and Blockbuster Music. Great to see you guys. One thing I was gonna say is Blockbuster Music. We're gonna do a special show for him, you guys. It's gonna be Monday. It's gonna be a great show. Hopefully, everyone could come and make it for him as well. He's been sharing his story and very vocal about, having stage 4 cancer, pancreatic cancer. So make sure you guys put up, some prayer hands and put up some hearts for him.
Indeed.
But most importantly, what you guys could do is really, really help me advertise that show, because we definitely want to showcase him. And we just want to have a great time on Monday. So it's going to be April 15th. It's going to be a pop-up special talk show for me this Monday. And we're going to dig into his awesome raid trains he does, his show, and just everything about him as well. So definitely come through, you guys, for Blockbuster as well. And thanks for
Great
coming, you
dude.
guys. Yes. Yeah,
Great.
definitely a great
Wonderful
dude.
ear. That
Yeah.
man's got a fantastic ear for music.
And
Yeah.
he had actually, I've done like a million raids in the last 3 years, and I have to admit, I mean, don't tell anyone else that does raid trains, but I will say Blockbusters, and I was hoping he would ask me back, but I know he's got a lineup of people.
Sure.
Blockbusters raid was one of my favorites, like because we did that high school raid, right? So it was very,
Fire.
very creative. It brought me back. It brought so many memories to me going through albums of the 90s, like
Hmm.
1990. Well, I didn't want to say 1996 Blockbuster on your flyer to say how old I am, but I'm like, can we just leave it out? But anyways, his raid was awesome doing it. I
Right.
thought his raid was the most creative and the most fun just doing his raid. It just brought back so many great memories. So, and no one else really did a high school raid train, right? So, yeah,
I agree.
anyways. Yeah, so definitely add Blockbuster, you guys. And I see Vamps does a great show, and everyone else in this room. There's so many great artists and streamers in this room. So make sure you guys add each other. So yeah, I'm curious because so it was 97 to 2005 you did the radio internship. It was the LA 92.3 The Beat. And you actually worked with Sway and King Tech. So when you were on radio, were you like the voice, like on the
Oh no.
radio, or
Oh
were
no.
you like
I
mix
was
music?
no. My title was the music librarian. So my duty, and just to clarify, I was there from late '97 to early '99. So it was only a couple of years, and
Okay.
I graduated out of my internship after that, and that's when I realized I wasn't going to be associated with radio anymore, and I walked away. But during those years was the golden years for me because I saw a lot of things go down. My goal, or not my goal, my role was to receive music that we got in the mail. This is back when you would send music into radio stations to get play, and I would receive music from all over the world because they were
Yeah.
the best urban, is what they called it back then, radio station. So I would get bootlegs, CDs, tapes, vinyl from everybody from Dilated Peoples to Jurassic 5 to Canadian artists like, shoot, his name's escaping me right now, Socrates.
Oh,
Um,
Socrates. He's Canadian. He's from here.
yeah, yeah,
Ba-dum,
we would
ba-dum,
get stuff
ba-dum.
from him.
That's what we have to do.
Yeah,
Socrates. He's a
there you go.
great, great artist. I just want to say,
He's OG.
wow, we just got a raid in, guys. I don't have any sirens. I got to get them, figure that out. Most people are grateful that I don't have any sirens, but thank you. We got a raid in from DJ Stacy Blessed. They hate my echo too. Thank you so much, DJ Stacy Blessed. I just saw on another laptop here. Thank you so much for the raid. Appreciate you. For all you guys that don't know, we're interviewing Jacewonmusic. You guys, this guy has opened up for legendary acts, like I said earlier, De La Soul, Method Man, Mos Def. Is it I can't even say the name properly. GZA? Is it? How do you pronounce that name? As you could tell, I need help
Which
pronouncing.
name? Which one was it?
It's is it Giza or GZA?
Jizza.
Jizza, that's it. Jizza.
From the Wu
Okay.
Tang.
I only
Yeah.
listened to a few tracks. Jizza, Method Man, De La Soul, Mos Def as well. And yeah, so we're just kind of going through his experience. And feel free to follow, but make sure you guys are following Jacewonmusic. Thank you again. Bless up to you, DJ Stacy Blessed. If we could do for the raid, if we could do a shout out for her as well, make sure you're adding her. Let us know how your show was. We got Keitha, DGS 619 in the building. Who else do we have here? Hey, we got DJ Tom Tom in the building. We have Shaky, Ink Sweetheart, Dr. Dady Priest. I had her on my female panel. She was amazing as well. Let's see, we got, is it Dwana in the building? I'm watching you, people. Sounds a bit creepy, but I like your user ID. Let's see, who else do we have here? Radifa, is it? We got Diesel, DGS, and everyone else for coming through. Thank you guys so much, and thank you for this raid. I appreciate you. So yes, so we're going back. Oh, we got Grits and Butter too in the building. Wow, that's one of my favorite user ID. Grits and Butter. I think it's a cute ID.
Great dish too.
Yeah, it's definitely a great dish.
Save your
DJ
grits over sweet grits all day.
Exactly. DJ, we don't have grits here actually in Canada, so you guys are going to have to get me some good grits, DJ Stacy Blessed, how was your stream? Definitely drop it in the chat, and let's do a shout out for her as well. So, it's interesting because I feel like we have a little bit in common in terms of the radio background, because I was
Mm.
feeling the same thing. Like sometimes, you're trying to work hard and you're trying to hustle and get somewhere and you're excited to be there. And then you start kind of seeing the ugly side of the industry. And you're
Yeah.
like, no, but I want a show here so bad. I've wanted a show for like 20 years. And I'm sure, I don't know if you felt that working at the LA 92.3 The Beat, but seeing the corporate, the kind of the ugly side of things, and, and the business, I guess you could say,
Yeah, that's
right?
the part. Yeah.
But it takes guts for you to walk away from something like that. Like you
Yeah.
just decided, hey, doing your intern, this isn't for me. Like I had to
Yeah.
walk away from a very large hip hop station too, and I wanted a show so bad, and I was promised like all these promises, or you're going to open up for Chub Rock, or you're going to open up and you're going to do all these things, and then it was just like a lot of interesting things happened actually there. I'll just leave it at that. But yeah, you start seeing the corporate side of things. So what was the feeling when you were kind of seeing all those things? Were you surprised by seeing all that stuff at the
Absolutely.
station? Yeah.
Yeah, because we came from this. There was a lot of guys in there that were at my level that came from the street, and we were essentially the street promotion for what the radio was doing. So when we came in there, we came almost in with that energy, like, nah, we're gonna show you guys what the people really want. Because we had been rocking parties since the late 80s, early 90s. Late 90s comes around, arguably when hip hop started to decline, or at least the golden era was, no longer shining. So we were in there going, no, it's still alive and good. We had a lot of underground at that time, late 90s, that was just incredible. And we would see it later with Raucous would come out with their thing. A lot of independent record labels were starting to perk up and bubble up. Rhyme Sayers, Fingerprint Records, a lot of stuff was happening, but the radio just wasn't playing it. So it motivated us to get into the radio scene and try to transform it. And as I said, I was going to college at the time where the Beat Junkies were at, and we were doing college radio there. And I had this moment of like, you guys, we have to get up to the radio station and show them. And then I had a conversation with the shout out Icy Ice. He's like, I'm already at the radio station, dog. Like, they're not going to do it. We do have West Side Radio. We had the Underground Wake Up Show. So it was being played at that time, but that was late night. It might as well be college radio at that point.
Mm-hmm.
So my goal was like, get in there and let's make the morning show play the real stuff. Let's get the afternoon, the drive home shows to play the real stuff. But the truth came out. It was all about payola and advertising, and it still is. I believe 92.3 switched up. They were bought by Clear Channel, which is now, I believe, iHeartRadio. So say less right there. Like, it just became something else. It wasn't about the music. It was about the entertainment and the advertising money. Yeah.
I think all of entertainment could be all about the money when you think about it. Even the apps we're on, as much as they say, oh no, it's just about creativity. Come on. It is about this, right? When it comes down to it. But it's
big
interesting.
Business, at least. Yeah.
No, it is. And I get that people need to survive, because I've sold advertising space for radio stations. So I get that, but there is a huge amount of pressure. Like, they want you selling like $20,000 packages, not just 500. They want like you selling $20,000 to $40,000 packages. And it's it's definitely a big business. So sometimes radio has nothing to do with the talent, because there's so many people out there like the Jay Dillas or the Jill Scotts, or so many incredible people that have talent that don't get showcased enough, right? But when I saw your show, I could tell that you were a true artist. Like, you had something special in you, not just like freestyling and rapping and like DJing, but it just came out of you. There's very few shows I can see that really, you can tell it brings you to the heart of like hip hop, or brings you to the heart of like a true artist. It's like watching, like, again, like a Jill Scott or a D'Angelo, or just someone that you can tell they love the music, right? So when I saw your show the first time, I was like, whoa, like, this guy's gonna go far. Like he really is. And make sure everyone in the room, guys, even before you leave, please add Jacewonmusic, the guy I'm interviewing right now here. You guys won't be disappointed. He does truly an incredible show, and I've literally seen like hundreds of shows online right now. So, would you say that, like, going back to radio? I mean, there's a huge difference I noticed between commercial and community radio. I've done
Right.
both.
Yeah.
And I feel community radio, which is kind of the college radio for all you guys that don't know, they really showcase local artists and they're about the artists. Like, I feel like there's a
Yeah.
difference there. Yeah.
Well, there is, because there's no money involved, really.
Mhm.
There is, we would do cold copy advertising, with local businesses and whatnot. But that, there's love in that. It would also sharpen our skill when it came to cold copy reads, live on the air. But it was also community based. We would try to push local acts, whether it was music or even businesses. So the focus was on our community, whereas, global radio stations, every major city has a global radio station, and they're owned by a global conglomerate, whether it's
Mhm.
Clear Channel, Viacom, iHeartRadio, which I think they're both merged. But yeah, it's all about the money at that level. And there are some real ones there. I don't want to take that away from the real ones that are still trying to, I wouldn't say change the system, but try to keep it as grounded as possible. I do still have friends in the business. Shout out PJ Butter. He was another guy at 92.3 The Beat that was really kind to me and very much giving me the real talks that I needed to keep me feeling non-defeated, because when I did walk away, I did feel a little defeat, but I did know I had skill and a passion for other things outside of radio, including DJing, including MC, and not so much with the breaking in graffiti anymore, because as you get older, that's a little more difficult to do. There's more at stake, including your body and a felony. But
Yeah, oh yeah, that's true.
back when we were writing on walls and whatnot, it was a felony, but also there was no other avenue. There was no outlet for us. And until like the late 90s, when Sprite was arguably the first real big brand, and Toyota with Scion, nobody was really going after hip hop culture. And it's kind of
Mhm.
like, it's slippery or sticky right there, because once Sprite did get a hold of the graffiti and the B-boys, everything became, like poached. Everything was being poached. Red Bull came in the scene and grabbed the B-boy scene. It just felt like, oh shoot, what did we do? We asked for it and we got it. And now next thing you know, it's, we got with all due respect, the Drakes and the Nicki Minaj's, as before we had, the early Commons, the early Mos Defs, or even now Mos Def. I still love Mos Def, but we had Lil Kims, we had Foxy Browns, we had MC Lights, Queen Latifah's, Moni Love's, Raw Digga, even Lauryn
Oh,
Hill's.
Raw Digga. Yeah,
And
she's
even those
amazing.
individuals kind of got influenced and swayed by, the beast, if you will.
True.
Hate
I
saying
think
that,
it's
but it's
hard
so true.
though, but if you're a full-time artist, and I hear what you're saying, I
Yeah.
think it's definitely hard even for artists, right? Like they're doing the same thing you are. They're flyering outside the club, they're
Yeah.
trying to promote themselves, they're trying to hand out their CDs. Like I think it would be hard for any artist if someone came up to them and said, "Hey, here's $1 million, you know, take it,"
Well,
and look at TLC's story, not reading, a lot of artists not reading contracts and pretty much
yeah,
going bankrupt and all the crazy things that happen. I think there's a lot of temptation, I'm sure in entertainment,
absolutely.
someone's
Absolutely.
going
I
to
got
hand you.
robbed. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Wow.
Not robbed, like literally robbed, but yeah,
Yeah.
contracts that didn't pan out and promises that were never fulfilled. And I have so much music that was shelved that to this day, if I was to leak it to Spotify, not even to make money, because let's be honest, we don't make money off of Spotify unless you're the Drakes. You know,
Mhm.
I mean, sure, you might be able to get some if you get a few 100,000 plays here and there, but at the end of the day, it's not really going to keep the lights on and feed your kids. So, um, yeah, it started to evolve and become more of a commodity, and that's where a lot of the folks, at least in the hip hop world, the worlds that we were from, where we were doing this since the 80s, we felt like it was commoditized and was becoming more of a fashion thing than it was a cultural thing. But there
Mhm.
still are movements and artists out there that keep it real. I remember Black Eyed Peas. We all know Black Eyed Peas. If you think about them pre Fergie, You know, right before the Super Bowl, Will.i.am and Taboo were handing out flyers at the Boombox LA, the event that I was at this weekend that's going to be going on 20 years pretty soon. And then he goes off and does, you know, a world tour. Taboo still judges b-boy competitions in Pico Rivera. So I mean, there's real ones out there. You know, you don't have to go that route. And people have their own agenda. They have their own goals, their own objectives and whatnot. So let them do what they have to do. But at the end of the day, keeping it real, you know, is up to interpretation, I guess.
Yeah, that's so true. So then I'm curious what keeps you grounded then, because, if someone came up to you and said, "Hey, here's $5 million, like, we'll showcase your stuff, we'll do whatever you can," but that maybe it's not really your gut is like, like pump the brakes,
Right.
Would you kind of
My
would you
grandmother.
walk away from that, or would you
No,
take it? I don't know.
I've had money, and I lived in a van down by the river, no, at the park. You know, I've lived in shelters with my family, my mom, my pops, myself, my little brother, and our dog for years. And I was the kid that would show up to elementary school with dirty clothes and have to explain why I had grass stains on my pants or why I wore the same thing twice, 2 days in a row. I've been there, and it was uncomfortable, but I survived. So I know money won't, and I've also been at the top. I've made 250,000 a year. It's not the top, but in the small man's world, 250 a year in the 2000s is legit. I had no debt. I was having a great time. I was traveling the world. I was just as upset and disgruntled as I was when I was broke. So I think it all has to do with what is your end objective? And my objective was to be happy, fulfilled, and not keep it real, but you still got to look at yourself every day in the mirror. And if you're not happy with who you see or what you've done, then you're playing yourself. So shout out J. Rue, the damager.
So no,
And
that's true.
with that comment alone, though, early hip hop, folks who grew up in early hip hop, for the most part, there was a lot of messages that were being said and taught by the OGs and the BGs, the baby guys, baby gangsters, if you will. They were listening. We were listening. And we almost felt like we were obligated to carry the torch at whatever level it was, whether it was the top or the indie level. We felt like we had a obligation to keep it real, because otherwise it would just become what big hip hop is nowadays, which is arguably selling out. And yeah, it's just tough. I don't know.
Do you think
It's
that
not
we paved
comfortable.
the way though, like back in the 90s? Because I know I can look and be kind of like that mommy. Well, I'm going to say aunt. I maybe upgrade to aunt, maybe
Auntie.
not mom.
Yeah,
Yeah, auntie. Like how our parents were just like, oh man, that music was so bad, this and this and this, and we're
of
looking. I'm
course.
now judging the new school hip hop and the music, but then I'm like, when I look at my 13-year-old cassette tapes, I had all the gangster rap and all the bad stuff. And then when you're listening to Lil Kim or Foxy Brown, they weren't exactly paving the way for, I mean, like they also lyrically didn't have the best lyrics, right? So
Sure.
are they any different from the Nicki? Although I love them, don't get me wrong.
There
I
you
loved the ones from the 90s. Like, did we kind of create that back in the 90s to where hip hop was? What do you think about that? Do you think we kind of did a bit with the music?
Well, regardless of lyrical content, because as with any craft, there's layers to it, and certain individuals focus on certain layers or sub skills or crafts within the big picture. You had lyrical content, you had style. Who's to say that E40 is whack just because he isn't, you know, super conscious with his raps? He has style, and he was showcasing where he was from because the people that he was around were like that. And that's where I felt hip hop stopped keeping it real, if you will, is that what I felt was that you had to talk about where you were from, and you had to bring your authenticity based on your environment. That's all rap really was back in the 80s and 90s, was talking about what you were saying. And it's what really attracted me to hip hop as a preteen in late 80s was I was hearing people talk about things that I was seeing every day outside. My pops, my mom, they were playing classic rock, folk, blues rock, even jazz. I wasn't getting it because it wasn't speaking to me. But the minute that I hear, Run DMC, or I hear KRS-One, Heck, I hear Ice Cube. I hear King T, Redman. I hear these stories that they're talking about, and I'm like, wow, I just saw that happen last night. I'm seeing it happen right now. So I stuck to that. It's no different from a baseball or a basketball team that shares your identity or your swagger. You want to be a part of that tribe. So what I thought happened with hip hop, even with Little Kim, yeah, her lyrical content, it's up to debate whether or not it was good or bad, but she was styling on them. She had a style that nobody was doing. We were used to Queen Latifah's and MC Lights and yo-yos, and she came out with this like glam, this style that we didn't know how to take it, but we were listening. We were, tell us more, tell us more. Nowadays, I feel like it's become more of and this speaks to the radio and the record business alone, or specifically, is they're trying to make carbon copies because it's guaranteed to perform and sell. Back in the day, the A&Rs didn't really care about that in hip hop. It was more about finding the next new thing. Who was fresh? Who was authentic? Who was going to just blow people's minds? And nowadays, we just don't care about that. We want to have 50 Drakes. We want to have 50 Lil Waynes because it's way easy to make that money. If you brought somebody out like Outkast, when Outkast came out in the 90s, we were used to UGK. We were used to Ghetto Boys. We were used to Southern rap like that. And then Outkast came out and just did something that was out of this world. And all of us were we all went towards it. We didn't hate. We didn't even bite either. We were just like, what's next? What are these guys going to do next to the next level? So that's what's missing, in my opinion, in the new school hip hop. There's no more authenticity. It's just what's going to sell. How can I get that click? How can I get that like?
100%.
How can I get that share? Yeah.
Yeah, so true. I definitely agree with you there, and I feel like there was no two artists that sounded the same back in the 90s or 80s, even if they could have the same flow, like a jazzy hip hop, like a De La Soul and Tribe, they were still so different, their voices, just how they came across, like Diggable Planets, Black Moon, all that type of jazzy hip hop. It's like, it was just no two artists sounded the same, but I feel like every artist is almost like a chameleon. Like I don't want to diss too
Mm,
much the new school hip hop. That's why I'm asking, like,
yeah.
did we kind of make it worse by paving the way, or I don't know. Is it just because I'm older now and I just am not feeling
Yeah. Get
I'm
off my
stuck?
lawn. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm like stuck in my thing. Who
I think
knows? I
so.
don't
It's a
know.
bit of that too. I think it's a
Yeah.
bit of that too. But I also think I don't think it's us getting older and being grumpy. I don't think it's that. I think that
Yeah.
we had standards in a certain sense. And to your point about people back in the day not really sounding the same, they sounded complimentary. And that's big.
Yeah.
That's a big difference. That's a big difference between sounding the same. And like nowadays, to be honest, I'll listen to the radio and I can't tell you who. Sometimes you can't tell that the song changed. Let's be
Mhm.
real. But back in the 90s, it was the same way too. Breakbeat, a loop, and an MC with the same cadence as, you know, Boot Camp Click or Black Moon or any of the Nervous record crowd. But like I said, it was complementary. You had tribes, you had the native tongues, and then as we got in the late 90s, you had the Soul Aquarians where that neo soul sound was starting to happen. So the roots were complementary to Common now. Common was complementary to Erica Badu, D'Angelo, Dilla, Dwele. They weren't the same, but you could play all 4 or 5 of those artists' records back to back and vibe in the same mind state, the same feeling. Like that's where you went for that feeling. And that's what hip hop was kind of like at that time. It was, you want the B-boy stuff, go listen to High Tech, go listen to Mos Def, go listen to Black Star. You want the more lyrical content, go listen to Atmosphere, go listen to Rhyme Sayers, listen to Brother Ali. If you want more of the party rocking stuff, you know where to go to get that stuff. Now it's Drake is all that to the new
Mhm.
generation. And I get it. We're I think budding called the microwave generation. We want fast food. We don't want that 4-course meal. It just takes too much of my time. I don't want to think when I'm listening. I just want this stuff as atmosphere in the background or a ringtone. You know,
Mhm.
it's different. It just evolved into something that we just don't have control of anymore. A branch from the tree, if you will.
Yeah, that's definitely interesting. Rob Boombastic says maybe in the mainstream there's still plenty of underground hip hop. So
Absolutely.
yeah, I definitely agree. That's interesting. How are you doing, Twitches? I see you came through. This girl, Xtina, she does an amazing playlist show. Make sure you guys are adding her. DJ Diamond Lee does an awesome show. Make sure you guys are adding him. DJ J Jonah, of course, is my man. Well, like fam, that's what I mean. But make sure you guys are adding him. DJ J Jonah. Let's see who else is in the building. Rob Boombastic too. Make sure you're following him. Icy Vamp and everyone else coming through. DJ Stacy Blessed again. Thank you for the raid earlier. Make sure you're following her too. She does a great show. Yeah, so that's interesting. Now you can freestyle. Like you really have
Thank you.
an act for that. That was really fun listening to you on your show. If there could be anyone that you could want to do a battle with, who would that
Ooh,
be to you?
shoot, I wouldn't want to battle anybody because I'd beat them. That's the type of mentality that I
Ooh,
got.
ooh, I don't. You'll beat him, really. You'll beat him.
I've, I mean, when I did the tour, the last tour that I did in 2019, I'm sorry, 2009. Wow. Jeez, I'm old. Uh, yeah, I mean, I was able to cipher with Method Man, Mos Def. Um, I didn't cipher with De La Soul, but I had one of the most coming to Jesus moments with conversations with Dave, rest in peace, and Pasta Noose.
Oh
Uh,
wow.
they kind of help me realize how challenging touring is, how you do have to kind of play the role of businessman as well as artist. And at the time, I really was just exhausted with all these things that I had to do to be successful at what I did naturally or what I really had a passion for. Hence why we all have managers at that point, 4 or 5 different managers. You have to put so much trust in other people that you start to really lose the authenticity and the focus.
Hmm.
That's why it's so amazing to watch these super athletes like, the Kobe's, rest in peace, the Jordans, even LeBron's, like the amount of money that he has to spend on personnel to keep him where he's at is just mind boggling. I wouldn't wish that on my worst enemy.
Hmm.
But if I could freestyle with somebody, I wouldn't say battle because I think I'm past that. And peace to J. Cole for squashing that dumb manufactured BS beef with Kendrick. That's just silly. Like, you need to stop that. So silly. But I would pick Slug from Atmosphere,
Hmm.
mainly because he has fun with it. He's an incredible wordsmith. And he doesn't take himself too seriously. If you ever watch my shows, I don't take myself seriously. Like you asking me to talk about my story and my background and why I do what I do, just based on what you saw on my streams. I was excited to talk about that because on my streams, I don't take myself seriously. DGS knows, Blockbuster Music, Icy Vamp, they know, G Class the DJ, they know. Half the time I'm just always having to shut my mouth because I'm just clowning myself. I'm having a great time. But I come from the era of hip hop where hip hop was fun. It was competitive. But at the end of the day, you had to bow down when somebody was greater, when somebody just styled you or sunned you or whatever. It was just like you, okay, cool. Well, I'm going to come back tomorrow and I got you. You know, the amount of times I was booed off stage for being the only white boy or being told that no written rhymes, this is an open mic freestyle, and walking away going, that wasn't written. Like, I loved those moments. I love the competitiveness of hip hop and MCing, but I would want to have a casual freestyle with Slug from Atmosphere. That'd be fantastic.
That's interesting. I would pair you up with Common. Here, wait. Oh, wait, guys, he's backstage. Let's bring him on. Hold
Bring
on
him
one
on.
sec. I'm just joking. I
Bring
wish.
him on.
I wish he was backstage too.
I'd
That's
ask him
my
if I
hip
can
hop
borrow a
crush.
dollar.
But don't you think his freestyle is so crazy? Like when I
Common?
saw how many people were getting, oh gosh, someone just came back. Oh, someone came backstage here. That scared me. It was
Oh, shoot, man. Bring Common
it
on. It'd be
actually
great.
was full blast radio. It scared me because I saw a pop up like that. I'm like, oh my gosh. I'm like, does he
Shout
have
out Full
comment?
Blast.
Yeah. Shout out, salute, full blast. we share the same StreamYards, but sometimes I think I deleted one of his shows accidentally when I got off my show. So I saw him just pop up. I'm like, what? Does he have comment on there? That would have been funny.
That would have been great. Yeah.
Oh, it would have been. I would be stuttering for sure. But yeah, I think he's amazing. Like when he came to Toronto, all the cue cards he was just grabbing, and it's like he studied our areas. He knew the suburbs. He knew everything we did in Scarborough, like on the east side compared to the west side here. And I was just blown away how much he studied like the city, right? So I think he'd be a good pair with Common. Trying to think, who do you guys think he'd be a good pair, a matchup to
I've heard
freestyle?
that, especially with the vocal tones. Like we have very similar baritone, speak from your belly. Yeah.
Yeah.
And he is up there for me as far as influence. Obviously, being a Chicagoan, born in Chicago, I followed I got all his records, all his vinyls. I followed him everywhere that he went as far as his career and whatnot. I even held strong with him when he went through the Kanye phase. I loved Electric Circus. Everybody else was hating on it, but I loved the fact that he got out of his comfort zone. Might have been because I was doing the same at the time, so I kind of felt like I had a peer from afar. But yeah, if you want to talk about the essence of hip hop, Common's got to be one of those because he showcases and exhibits the MC, the b-boy, the street. Like you want to talk about a guy that could take it there. If you want a true understanding of what hip hop beef sounds like, next to KRS-One and MC Shan's beef, go listen to Common and Ice Cube's beef. Go listen to No Vaseline and Payback. Those two, there was no metaphors. There was no metaphors. They went right after each other.
I was gonna say KRS-One, but he's got a totally different style, and I just feel like his voice alone would be like boom, like smash anyone. So I'd be a little afraid, of KRS-One.
He's got presence.
Because the minute he's on the mic, I'm like, I'm sorry, guys. You may as well take a seat if you're gonna battle KRS-One, because you're.
Well, did I tell you my first show was opening for him? My first show ever.
Wow. Yeah. Explain
2005.
How did that happen with KRS-One? Was that the first kind of big guy you opened up for or did a show with? Oh, okay. How did that happen?
I was absolutely starstruck. It was 2005, and I was working with a label at the time, and we had a record out. The label was called Poetry in Motion, and my record was called Evolution. You might be able to find a random one on Discogs or Amazon. It isn't digitized because the label, that was one of the first label dropouts that I had, or fallouts that I had, was with them. Creative Differences, first experience of that at the higher level. But during the album, we had landed a series of openings for the Scion. Remember the Scion box, that car that they had the hamsters that would b-boy in the commercials and whatnot?
Oh, wow.
They were doing a tour around the world, and they were having hip hop shows in all the major cities, and they had one in LA. And I was asked to open up for him at the Conga Room way back in the day. And I don't even think the Conga Room's there anymore. I think it relocated to LA Live in downtown or something. But yeah, I opened up for him. It's where I met Kev Brown, Odyssey, Crisis, the Low Budget, DC, the DMV District Cats, incredible artists themselves. But yeah, I got to open up for KRS-One. He came on stage, like you said, and I thought I wrecked the crowd. I think even in the article, it was written that some gal threw her panties on stage at me.
What?
And I just picked them up and put them in my pocket and walked off stage. I was thinking, wow, I just got Teddy Pendergrass. That's awesome. But when backstage,
is that what that means? I was wondering, because if you throw pennies out here on a stage, that's considered like an insult. Like if someone threw pennies
Teddy Pendergrass.
Panties. Okay. Oh, I thought
panties were thrown at me.
Oh, yeah. I thought you said pennies. Oh, okay.
No pennies, panties.
Well, I mean, with the voice of yours, I mean, not saying that women would do that, but
like
he's got the hello. It's like this, guys. Hello, ladies. I'm Chang. My name is Jacewonmusic.
Hello.
Oh, yeah. You definitely, when I first heard you, I'm like, oh wow, he's definitely got a voice. Okay.
Thank you.
Sorry, guys. I thought you meant pennies. I didn't
No, no
know he was
pennies.
talking
No,
about unmentionables. How are girls going to throw unmentionables at him
unmentionables.
on a like a hip hop show? Like, oh, I guess they do with Drake. Never mind. Uh, that's surprising back
Yeah, I did it
then.
before Drake. Did it before Drake.
Wow. Oh my gosh, that's crazy. I didn't
But
know they
yeah,
did that
the
back in the
care
80s or 90s. Yeah.
the KRS-One moment though was interesting because I caught him backstage, or he caught me backstage, and he literally grabbed me. And he said this before to other people from what I've heard, is that he told me I'm a guest. And I said, absolutely, I'm glad to open for you. He's like, no, you're a guest in this culture. And I was like,
Hmm.
what? And he's like, yeah, man, just remember, you're a guest, do your thing, play your role, but just understand that you are a guest in this culture. And I just stood there shocked and stunned, like didn't really
Wow.
recognize what he was saying at first. And I realized, oh wait, yeah, because I'm a white boy. I get it. And I told him, yeah, no, I understand, man. I understand that. All due respect. Grew up loving BDP and you guys, and I understand that. I'm not trying to be a takeover type of guy, right? And most of the white rappers in the 90s were in 2000s, even hell, even maybe today, we're dealing with that. And we're not gonna complain. We are. We are guests.
But
This isn't our culture.
do you think he meant it that way, or do you think it's because you were opening act and you were getting,
Yep.
like, crazy, crazy love
Yep.
and, like, people were receiving you when
Yep.
because usually the star of the show, it's kinda like a DJ, opening DJ,
Hmm.
you can't be playing their opening track or the good
Yep.
tracks kinda thing compared to
Yeah.
the main DJ, because the main DJ is gonna be like, "What the heck, man? I'm hyping up the party." Do you think it
Yeah.
had to do with that than race, or do you think it did actually
No,
have to do with
it might have been a
race?
combination. I don't think he was being racist or racial at all. I think he was just reminding me, you know, hey man, good job. But just remember, this is borrowed time. It's like, all right, bet, cool. But I've heard him say that multiple times. Not heard him say that. I've heard other artists say that that's what they've been told at festivals and when they've opened up for him. It's just his way of keeping, um, what would I call it? What's the word? Keeping the culture pure, perhaps. I don't know. But it was
Hmm,
was shocking in the moment. But
sounds a bit
I will never.
intimidating. I don't know.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
agree with Twitch is. It was both, but I
I'd be a
have no
little
problem. I
confused.
know I'm self-aware. I was the only white kid on the brown block growing up. I know I've never been called slurs because I feel
Mhm.
like I carry my culture. I'm a very proud Irish, Scandinavian, American, very like I've favorite rugby teams, Irish, Ireland. I've gone to Ireland, I've gone to Iceland, I've done my research on my own for my own culture to have confidence and pride in my own culture, but I can't not carry where I'm from. Like I never can not do that. If I'm in the boardroom at the marketing and advertising agencies, it'll sneak out of me sometimes. If I get a little heated, it sneaks out of me sometimes. But
Mhm.
I know where the line is. I've always known where the line is. I've never had a problem recognizing that. I am
But
a
I don't feel
guest
like
in that
someone I don't
culture in that
know.
regard.
I don't know. I'm just
See, which
hearing
is I lean like a cholo.
yeah, I'm gonna keep it real, just and I mean, I guess I
Sure,
could
go for it.
understand both sides, but that's
Yeah,
disappointing for KRS-One to say that to so many artists because I feel like he's already got clout, he's already big, everyone respects him. I just feel like it's kind of like checking you saying, "Hey, know your place." And I think it's hard enough for an opening artist to come up and they're nervous and they're like, "Oh my gosh, like I have to make sure I make a good impression," right? So, I don't
yeah.
know. I don't know how I feel about that, guys. I'm just going to keep it 100 with that, but
I just
I don't
I'll
know.
never argue with uncles and big brothers. It's like I got it because I'm confident. I knew I rocked it. I know I'll continue to rock it, and I still do. So it was never. You hear it a lot in the industry, is what I'm saying. I mean, Lord Jamar from Brand Nubian. We all know the Benzino
Mhm.
thing with Eminem. Like, it is what it is. It's a very small sliver of what I would say they have to deal with on a day-to-day basis in the public. So I'll keep it with
Oh,
that.
wow. Okay, so, Twitch is okay, maybe you could explain after my show to me because I don't know everything Twitch is. She says, "You gotta know where KRS-One fits." Maybe you gotta explain to me after. Rob says KRS-One is about KRS-One, then about the culture. Ooh,
That's
wow.
true.
See, that would
But
be
all due
yeah,
respect,
but
he's a
yeah, I don't know.
legend.
No, he
So
is a
yeah,
legend. He definitely is. So
yeah.
when you walked out on that stage, were you like nervous? Like, how did you feel? Did you feel you strike me as a very confident guy that not too
Ooh,
much gets to you, just at least in this interview, but how did you feel when you're walking out on that stage?
always nervous, always nervous.
Mm.
But just like I imagine, yeah, I played sports. I still do play independent sports up in Portland, but I nervous up to the point of the first interaction. Once you get hit or once you start rapping, you just fall into this almost like a trance.
Yeah.
Same thing happens in DJing, and my people in the chat will attest to that. Like sometimes I forget there's a chat because I have my head down and I'm just going from table to table to table to table. Or if it's the rock show, I'm pulling vinyl and I'm so focused and in the moment that I don't have time to be nervous at that point. But leading up to it, like 8 Mile with Rabbit throwing up in the bathroom, like leading up to it,
Mhm.
absolute
So
wreck.
true. And
Yeah.
other people have pressures too, right? Like, you're not the first
Yeah.
guy that I've interviewed that said that he was the only white guy. Jay Online said the same thing, and it
Ooh, yeah.
shocks me because you guys, Jay Online is the number one distributor in the entire world out here. Did I say
Hmm.
world? The entire world, guys, of reggae
Word.
reggae edits in the world, right? The only one that's doing it. And he's crazy on the turntables, like here in Toronto. So when I interviewed him, he talked about being the only white guy in mostly Jamaican parties or Caribbean
Ooh,
parties, like getting and his shows getting booed, like booed.
really?
And I love it. I love hearing those stories because it's not always the highlights. You know how we showcase the highlights and all the accolades and
Sure.
all the
Yeah.
awards, but people don't realize like their star, Eminem, same thing, right? Had to really prove
Yeah.
himself. So I guess those things definitely make you humble, right? And you also went on to secure 20 shows over the West Coast, touring guys with legendary acts like De La Soul, Method Man, the Giza, as well as Mos Def. And were there other artists that you toured or opened or connected with as well over the
Yeah.
years?
Yeah. The Game, Arrested Development. That was probably my favorite. That and De
Wow.
La were my two favorite.
Hmm.
Just because Speech was one of those MCs from back in the fun hip hop days, where you would have party rocking music. We all know Everyday People, Mr. Wendell, all those party rocking
Tennessee,
joints from the 90s. Exactly. Yeah, it just
Tennessee,
felt
yeah.
fun. And he brought his tribe in. It was the whole crew. It was never just him, even though it was just typically him rapping.
So do you
Another
remember
great
your
conversation.
your like, I guess, the first show or the first couple shows when you did the West Coast tour? Like, what was the feeling for you as well? Because these are really big
Excitement,
acts. Yeah.
excitement. Every time that my manager would hit me up with an email, or actually it was back when we had sidekicks. I remember I had a sidekick. Remember that T-Mobile sidekick? We would
Oh
do
gosh.
two-way messages. There
Is that
was
like
no
with
text messages.
BlackBerry or with your pager?
Well, the BlackBerry Messenger, but we had the T-Mobile had like a sidekick. It was like an iPhone, but you would flip up it would spin the screen to
Oh,
the
wow. Oh,
top.
yes. Yeah, I remember that. Those phones are
But
probably
yeah,
more durable than the Apple phones.
oh,
Yeah.
absolutely. These things,
Yeah.
you just look at it the wrong way, they crack. But yeah, it was the excitement of getting a text, and I would see her name, my manager's name, and I'd just be like, "Oh wow, here we go. I'm gonna find out who I'm going to be opening for, this week at Fresno Music Fest." I look at it, and it would be someone like Asher Roth, who at the time was one of the biggest, uh, I guess, up and coming artists. I think he even got Freshman of the Year on XXL at the time. But excitement to show and prove, especially when it was guys of that caliber who had made it, arguably made it, but weren't legends yet. I was out to try to show them that I should be there. You should be opening for me type of, excitement. And that was just the hip hop in me, just wanting to sun everybody that I had the opportunity to, share the stage with. But anytime a legend popped up on that text message, it was absolute like awe, like wow. I'd go and pull out the record, look at the record, and play the record, and play the record, and play the record, and just okay, how watch the videos. How can I move on the stage like these guys? How can I control the crowd? And the best, I guess, example of me doing that or exhibit of that was when I opened for the game, and it was in Long Beach at this club called V2O. I'll never forget it because it was the night that Michael Jackson passed.
Oh,
So I
wow.
was not only in my own emotions because I loved Michael growing up,
Hmm.
still do love his music. We all do. But I was like low key thinking, no one's going to show up. No one's going to show up. Everybody's going to be in their feelings. Who wants to come see a hip hop show with the game, and some nobody. But I show up, crowd's packed. I open up. Nobody's really paying attention to me when I walk on stage. I got the old 2000s beanie cap on and the big
Hmm.
clothes. At the time, I was sponsored by a company called Acrylic Clothing. I believe they're still out here doing their thing in LA. And I start rocking, and I slowly start to see people turn around as I'm emceeing. A few more people turning around. Next thing you know, they start moving closer to the stage. And then sooner or later, they're right there at the front of the stage. The entire crowd is just locked in. And so I'm just running it back and forth. We had a whole like entertainment type of, not entertainment, but like a rehearsed, type of thing going on where I was going in and out of like Slick Rick verses. I would do a Slick Rick verse over my beat, and then I go into my stuff and it's my beat again, and then I go into Slick Rick's beat with my stuff, and I was just going in and out of classics in my own stuff, but I was bodying it. I had the cadence of Slick Rick. I would go into a Eric B and Rakim joint, and I'd rap just like Rakim, just showing that I had dexterity, I had range. And at the end of my set, peace to everybody. People are throwing money on the stage, like
Wow.
cash, like, yo,
That's
good luck,
crazy.
please. Like, here, don't buy your own drinks and food tonight. I'm doing it for you.
Did you
So
pick
I
it
take
up?
the money.
I'd probably stop and
Absolutely, I
start picking
did.
it all up.
Absolutely,
Yeah.
I did. I was hungry, literally. So I picked it up. I walk out to the smoking patio. I don't smoke, but that's just escaping, get some air. The
Hmm.
entire crowd went outside and hung out on the patio, taking turns saying peace to me and asking if I had merch and whatnot. Meanwhile, the game is performing in
Wow.
in front of an empty crowd, and I'm out in the patio.
Crazy.
And this is back when the game had dropped that record with Dr. Dre, where he's sitting on the rims and whatnot. Dreams was the big hit. They're outside, and they're all with
That's
me, and I'm hanging
insane.
out. And I could hear him rapping, and you could hear his DJ going, yo, 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 come to the stage, come to the stage. And I was just giggling inside, going, oh, this is rad. I really got these. I really got what it takes to get this, the crowd tuned in and locked in. So that was my favorite experience on that specific tour. Never got to meet the game, though. He bounced afterwards with
Really?
his entourage. Yeah.
So
He might have been a little
do they
upset.
kind of keep it separate then, where they
Pretty
don't?
much.
Yeah, I guess so, right? Because they're
Yeah.
busy trying to get ready for their show. But I thought they'd at least come up and say hello, like to the new artist,
Yeah. He
coming
didn't.
in. But I would see it. But there could also be a little bit of, because there is a lot of egos in this industry, right? So it's
Oh,
kind of
yeah.
like, what the heck?
Well, I think
But
we all seen his ego recently, too.
what's
Yeah.
funny, you guys? You guys got to Google Love Connection. Google the game from Love Connection. I want you guys to do that. Believe it or not, he was a real pretty boy back in the day. You would never ever know. He's a real softie. And you'll see him on the Love Connection show. I was like, what? That's the game? There's no way. And I don't know. I think you'll see him
He's a
chasing
good
a
looking
girl or
dude.
something crazy.
He's still from the
Uh,
block, though,
Yeah, I'm not feeling it. No. But anyways, that's another situation. How you doing, Siga Blue? I think I see you coming in here as well. Good to see you. Um, let's see here. I'm just seeing. Yeah, if you guys got any questions for Jacewon Music, definitely drop it in the chat. But you guys gotta Google the game. It's hilarious. Like, he's such a little pretty boy softy, like nothing on how he is right now. It's like two different sides. It's kind of like Aubrey. I can't think of Drake as Drake, because although he's done, I mean, he's come a long way for Toronto. Like, for us, we do have a lot of artists coming
Sure.
out of here, but I do feel like he's a chameleon. Like, he was an actor. He's always going to be known as Aubrey with the thick goggles on in the wheelchair in Degrassi High. He's always going to be that little nerd, that nerdy kid to us, anyways. So it is kind of funny, like seeing him now and put on like that whole show, because that's not really Drake. If you guys know who Aubrey is, right? So, anyways, it's the same thing with the
You said
game.
it.
Yeah, you got to check out the game because it's kind of funny. Um, were there any times like when you were doing a show where you just kind of lost the lyrics, where you were nervous or you
Oh
just
yeah.
like had a brain freeze?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. But that just becomes part of the show. Nobody in the audience really knows. So just keep it moving.
Oh,
Hell,
so you
I've
just try
tripped
to
on
keep it moving?
stage. Yeah, I tripped on stage and turned it into a 6-step. I started breakdancing. So
Oh,
it just
wow.
becomes part of the show. Uh, you're so full of adrenaline, and you practice, or you should. I always did. I always practice on the way to the event. I practice in the green room. I physically stretch to make sure I'm not cold.
Mhm.
Um, I'll usually have my DJ with me. Even my manager will start. She'll just start rapping, and then I'll continue the rap. Like it's
Oh,
just
that's good.
you have to stay prepared. You stay ready. You don't got to get ready, type of thing. Shout out Sugar
Yeah, you have
Free.
to keep doing that. Now I downloaded some of your music, but for some reason, if anyone knows how to use StreamYards properly, maybe if Dr. Dady Priest is still in the building, she's good at this. It's not allowing me to play an MP3. It says MP4. It's got to be MP4.
Video file.
Do you guys know if I share the screen, if that would work? I mean, I can try it. I don't really
Could
know.
Your
Let's see.
audio source would have to be connected to the browser.
Oh, shoot. Yeah, I'm not a very good techie person, guys, at all. Let's see. I mean, I could share the screen. Let's see if this works. Let's see here. I'm trying to
I can
see
let you know. I assume that
how
if
do,
I hear it, that they could hear it.
how do I do this? Yeah, so if anyone knows, let me know. Oh man, it's giving me different tabs. Uh, let's see. Entire screen? No, that doesn't work. Maybe share a window? No, that's not going to work. Yeah, it's not giving me the option. Select a tab. So I want to play some music for you guys. It's really, really good. Um, oh shoot. You need to share an app or a browser tab. How do I do that, this girl, Xtina? Okay, let's see here. I've never done this. Yeah, because usually a video, unless if I convert your MP3 to an MP4, would that work? And then download it? I don't know.
MP4
Um,
is video, strictly video. You would need M4A
Yeah,
or
like I don't know why they're saying uh so when you present it, when you click present, play it on your phone. Oh my goodness. Yeah, that's okay. I didn't even think about that. Thank you. Siga Blue, you saved the day. Okay, so the audio may not be as great, but I'm gonna do what uh they said to play it. Now there was one, what was it? It was a mixtape, and it was called the Confessions of a Sensitive Pimp. It was a street tape. So was that kind of the tape that got you the shows on the West Coast, or for someone to kind of notice you?
yeah. Yeah, back in the 2000s and even into the 2010s, what a lot of rappers would do is what we call street tapes, not mixtapes. Mixtapes are obviously, other people's music that you would just mix seamlessly. Street tapes was you taking popular instrumentals at the time and then putting your lyrics over them. It was kind of a way of like, sugarcoating your content to where people would give it a chance. Because if it sounded familiar, they would, oh, who's this? I've heard this beat before. And it's pretty much what that was. I took some Neptune's beats, some Kanye beats. Who else did we take? Just a whole slew of like 2000s artists, kind of not necessarily mainstream. There's a couple joints on there that might be mainstream, like Eclipse. I think we had the Clips, Yeah, You Too. And then I reworked it to call it Yeah, You, or it was Mr. Me Too. I called it Yeah, You Too. And it was me coming at my angle with my content over their popular beat. Yeah, that's what a street tape was considered back then.
Okay,
Eminem
interesting.
got famous on that as well. He would rap over other people's instrumentals. It was very common in hip hop back then.
Hmm. Okay, I'm trying to download it. It's not allowing me. How do I figure this out? I'm definitely not a techie person, guys. So I just downloaded, but now it's showing blank. So I'm going to still try to work at it while I'm asking you questions too. We're going to get there. I think I could probably play some of it. It wasn't on YouTube, right? I think I saw it on
No,
another app. Okay. So I'm going to try to figure this out then.
it
All
is
right.
interesting that the platform only gives you video file sharing. That's
Yeah, it's
very
kind of
interesting.
weird. It's kind of limited, even with photos. Like I can't seem to bring photos in here. Okay, this girl Xtina knows StreamYards pretty well. Um, oh man, Twitch is trying to make me sound old. She says parents are techie challenged. Whatever. I'm just gonna say I'm a young auntie. Okay, leave me alone. Let's see here. Okay, I'll just need a minute, guys, to kind of figure it out. Yeah, this girl Xtina, you got to school me on StreamYards for sure. We'll get it working in a sec. So yeah, so then, I guess after the 20 shows, everything just kept getting better and better for you, right? Like you already seemed confident, but probably the confidence kept building as you were touring and doing more shows too.
Yeah, anxiety was too. Yeah, because I got approached by a label out of the Midwest, Rhyme Series Entertainment. Shout out DJ Bird. Um, yeah, I was at a crossroads, if you will. My last show was with De La Soul, and that was when I had the conversation with Dave and Poss. Um, just really gave me an idea of what it would take to make it, and the same was echoed by Rhyme Sayers, that I would have to practically just focus on that, and that's it. And I had too much going at the time. I was still in college, art school. I was still playing baseball. I loved my family, my friends, and for me to actually go that route and become that level of successful, I would have to leave all that. And I understood it. I was at a age at that time where I knew what sacrifice was like. I'd done plenty of it in the past. And I guess I was a little selfish. I wanted it all. And so I had to make a decision. And late that summer, I decided not to pursue a record deal, to finish college, to get a career, focus on my career. I had a lot of things going on in my life where I was losing people. I was watching friends take that route and not be successful and hearing their horror stories. So I just was, I didn't want to be back where I was before all this started to happen, which was dead broke and still living in the hood. So I just didn't want to take that chance. The reward versus risk just wasn't there for me because I didn't care about the money. I cared about just playing dope music for my friends. I wanted to rap. I wanted to tell my story to my audience. And as it grew, I got a little bit more anxiety, like the judging is going to come. The shit that I really didn't like growing up is going to come back. The pressure is going to
Mhm.
be there. I'm going to end up not seeing my family as often. My pops was sick at the time. It was like, okay, well, I have to make a decision because it ain't going to be there, forever.
Now you got like quite the story, and I'm listening. I'm just trying my best to download this
Oh,
as
good.
well. Um, you got the quite the story of going through so many losses, and persevering through like life challenges, right? And that's always
Yeah.
tough. And I know there's so many people on Twitch, so many guys. If you get a chance, check my Instagram message that I just posted recently on how many losses we've endured in the last couple of years. But I just sent him a personal message because I was blown away by his bio, you guys. I've interviewed over 200 people, and normally you hear accolades and accomplishments and achievements in someone's bio, which is normal, right? For entertainment, you want to showcase those as much as you can. But his bio was so refreshing to me. It literally
Mm.
blew my mind, guys, because he talked about his story just with his parents. And I'm going to let you, if you don't mind, kind of sharing that background, because I think that's what pieces together what makes you as a person and as an artist and how you see life and how you see things in this industry. But just some of the things that his parents battled, some of the losses, losing friends, some of the things that have happened to him to just kind of shape him to be who he was. I thought it was beautiful. It was nice reading a bio that was very transparent and open about all those things. So
Mm.
if you want to kind of go back and talk about, maybe I guess briefly how you were raised or with your parents, some of the things you mentioned in the
Right.
bio, I think that would be great. Yeah.
Uh, Dating back to like when we left Chicago, I mean, the reason why we left Chicago was because of a large portion of that. My biological dad was in a psychedelic rock band at the time. This is like the late 70s. And he was involved in a major accident. He was also, rode a bike. A lot of guys rode motorcycles back then. Even my stepfather did when my mother remarried. She had a thing for rock stars and bikes, I guess. But yeah, he got in an accident when I was 3, developed some brain damage, and was never the same. And there was a very abusive, verbally and physically abusive household. My grandparents had already relocated to Cali. So my mother packed her bags and we went to Cali, reconnected with my grandparents, went back to Texas because my stepfather, who my mother remarried, or she had remarried my stepfather. That sounds weird. She had remarried, and my stepfather had family in Texas at the time, and he was losing his dad out there. So we moved to Texas, watched those grandparents pass away, had my little brother while we were in Texas, moved back to Cali. And while in Cali was when I really started to build my affinity towards hip hop and the culture itself, because the neighborhood that we lived in was mostly, street. It was brown Chicano culture, lowriders, house parties, breakdancing, graffiti, all that jazz. And in junior high, I ended up losing one of my best friends to drive-by. It was back when tag banging was really big. I was sitting on the porch and guy rolled up, took him out. Months later, I was in another house party, another drive-by, lit up the garage. A lot of folks were hit. I was hit by a stray. Fast forward, lost my grandparents 2 months after I lost my best friend / girlfriend at the time. She developed cancer, lung cancer. And this happened during the first album that I had in 2005. So that kind of is what helped derail my relationship with the label, because my focus was elsewhere, really was. It was creative differences, but it was also, I was dealing with a lot of loss. I lost my girlfriend, I lost my grandmother, I lost my grandfather. And anybody who knew me knew my grandfather and my grandmother were really the ones that were raising me. Because at the time, and even previously, my parents started, getting into drugs, and they dealt with that addiction, in and out of jail, prison. So it was just constant not having people around me that I needed to help keep me aligned with where I needed to go and what I needed to do to, become a man and succeed in anything that I wanted to do, let alone music. So I just started to build my tribe at the time. To this day, the guy that I'm staying in a trailer right now, because I'm down in LA, usually up in Portland, but I came down here for a series of shows. He still lives off the block, but he has this RV trailer that he keeps in the back for when they go to the river, and he invited me to stay here. But he's a day one. A few of my other friends that I saw this week are my day ones. These guys have never left my side. They've been to every show that I've rocked, dating back to the house parties in the early 90s. The guys that started to carry my crates because, they didn't want to mess with the showbiz stuff. They just wanted to show me that I had support. None of them white, they're all black and brown, which was just crazy to me because of all the shit that I would see, outside of the block. There was no support for that. You were either called something, this, that, and the other, if you were hanging around those types of crowds. But they always treated me like fam. Yeah, it was a whirlwind of loss and travel most of my life. I've never lived in the same city for longer than 2 years for the most part.
Wow.
I
Yeah.
know that was like a fact.
No,
Yeah.
no. Thanks so much for sharing all of that. I actually didn't know that about your girlfriend.
Yeah.
And just I know some of the losses you posted in there. I could definitely relate. I don't know if you've heard me on my show. I've talked lots with my boyfriend passing as well. So that's kind of interesting that definitely have that connection. So I get it. And there's very few people that understand that, even if years have gone by and you've moved on moved on in relationships. I'm just curious because I know it's hard for I don't feel like there's a lot of outlets for men, especially with mental health and loss and what we've gone through in our family backgrounds. What has kind of kept you sane? Have you ever done grief share? I know I've done grief share, and that's literally personally saved my life with so many losses and so many friends and especially after my boyfriend too. So I'm curious if you've ever done grief share or any of
Oh
those
yeah.
things, or therapy, or.
Yeah, been through. I've in and out of therapy since the 90s, not
Mhm.
just for the grief sharing, but just for my own, you know, struggles. Never really have been dependent, never on like drugs or alcohol. I do it casually, of course, not
Mhm.
hard stuff, but alcohol, weed is just always been a part of my life. Um, what's really kept me sane was just music. Music and sports was the two big things that kept me grounded, because I couldn't really rely on the other things that were really distracting my peers if I wanted to perform well in both those areas. And when I was seeing success in both those areas, it was motivation and, kept me honest with myself and pursuing those ventures. But as far as grief share and therapy, that's always been a big part of my life, even with relationships that came up after that. Whenever things would get really tight and tough, I would always, talk to my partner and see if there's something that we could do, speaking to somebody in the middle, have a mediator, have a good conversation. Let's figure this out. I'm not one that would just give up and walk away when times get
Mhm.
hard or tough. If it gets to a point to where we both feel like doing that, I'd rather bring somebody in to help us out and talk it out, because I'm here for a reason.
Mhm.
We're not here for just a show. I want to be here to build something. Anybody that I interact with, or anybody that if I have your phone number in my phone, I'm there for you. And they're typically there for me as well. I'd like to think that everybody that I'm there with, friend wise, family wise, would at a drop of a hat do whatever it takes to help me out if I need it.
Yeah.
And so far it's been that way.
So true. And it's good that you're doing all that, because some people would just avoid it and jump in a relationship, or, like fill
Yeah.
their life with like multiple partners, or drugs, or I mean this industry,
Yeah.
right? It's filled with it. So there's always a lot of temptation, right?
Right.
And sometimes that could be someone's coping through a lot of loss as well, or heartbreak, or even past issues. But that's great that you're
Yeah.
aware of it. Um, you know, uh yeah, it's definitely great that you're aware of it and that you're taking different things, and to know that like you can't be, sometimes you may want to be coming from a broken environment or something, you may want to overly help, or over
Oh yeah.
caretake, or over help other people all the time. And uh that's also kind of not a symptom, but that's what I've learned anyways. When you're like that with other
Or yeah.
people and you're giving, it's like that can be because of your past stuff too, right? So,
I've
yeah.
dealt with it. I've been on the edge of that.
Mhm.
I wouldn't say ruin relationships, but I've kept relationships from potentially blooming by doing that. And then I catch myself, but it's, sometimes it's too late. But at the end of the day, I always do have that moment of, I got to look at myself in the mirror and I have to be honest with myself. But oddly enough, that Sensitive Pimp tape was that one time that I really did. 'Cause it was 2009. It was when it came out. I lost my girlfriend in 2006. The label thing fell apart 2007. So that had a lot to do with what happened in those stories that are told on that street tape. Was me
Wow.
trying to not drown myself, but it was me not dealing with the problem. It was me
Yeah.
going out and seeing if I could fill that hole that I had at the time with nightlife, with women, with entertainment, with the industry. And I'm really proud of myself in doing that project, because if anybody who's familiar with that project, or even caught the stream, I just had the 15-year anniversary for it. And I did it on Twitch, where I talked about the stories behind each one of those songs, as well as the interludes, and talked about the individuals that I was playing the roles of on these skits and whatnot. They could see that I took it seriously, but at the same time, I was able to step back and laugh at myself and understand that that wasn't me. And that's what that tape's about. A lot of people get turned off by the term pimp, or confessions of a sensitive pimp. Oh, this is going to be pimp rap. It's
Mhm.
very much the opposite. It's me being out of my element, trying to get into that space and realizing it wasn't for me, and how quickly the universe reminded me this isn't you, and pushing me back to where I needed to be.
Yeah.
So it was a very fun experience,
Yeah, it's so
fulfilling.
true. And it's crazy how like life trials, you know, and I think there was someone in
Yeah.
here. It was Siga Blue. So throw up some hearts for them, guys. They said that they lost their grandparents in the same year, and their brother passed away 2 weeks after being born.
Oof.
They say life isn't easy, 100%. So make sure you guys are throwing up some love and some hearts for them. That's why it's important to share our
Indeed.
stories and to go a little bit deeper, right? Like,
Yeah.
because we see so many highlights online, but we're not really, a lot of times people see the entertainment side, but they don't see the true side of someone's
Right.
like uh, heart or character, or who they really are. So I'm glad, I'm grateful that you shared that as well. And it's interesting because Twitch has been such a blessing. I think you're about the 10th person that I've met online in the last 3 years that have lost a partner. And for me, it's been about 14 years. It's been a long time, but like, I've never met anyone like ever with the same story. So no one could really relate, right? You just kind of moved on, you plunged into your career or music or whatever it was that you were doing. So I could relate to what you were saying. But look at some of the main losses and look at where it brought you, like even
Oh
being
yeah.
on the stage with some of those acts, or to keep pushing and keep trying, right? So it is pretty a remarkable story where you came from, and just how you persevered through pretty much like all those things, because that's not easy to go through, right? So
Yeah.
yeah. Hmm.
My grandparents lost. That was, I mean, obviously, losing my girl was heavy because I was, how old was I? It was 2006. I was born in 78. So yeah, it was well into my 30s. And, that's the time when you're starting to think about things. Um, like what's next? What am I going to do? Start a family. I'm going to do this.
For
But
sure.
also
Yeah.
at the time, my parents were dealing with stuff. They were still, in the hood. They were still dealing with, substance abuse. Pops had his third strike at the time. Um, Mom was caught up on some stuff. So my grandparents were practically my rock. They were the ones that would, straight shooters. They were both from South Chicago, like the old South Chicago, like the big black cars and
Mm.
the big parkas and in the old Irish Italian neighborhoods. Like these, they were straight shooters. So whenever I had questions or they see me doing certain things, they pull me aside and give me a stern talking to, where I could just bring it to them. And they were very, very, very helpful in keeping me, on track. So when I lost them and my parents were still doing their thing, it was kind of like I felt lost. Like, well, I don't have rocks anymore. I have my boys, I have my tribe, but they've got their lives now. We're all in our 30s now. At the time, it's like, I'm not going to bother them with my stuff. I'm going to figure out a way to deal with this myself. I always did. But as I got older and I got into my 40s, I was like, I was never alone. I never did anything by myself. They always were there some way, somehow, whether it was the phone calls or the physical interactions, or just, the happy birthday shouts. Like it's stuff like that when people are going through things. Like they were always there for me. So no, it was never me. That's why that post
Mhm.
you just recently shared, what are you grateful for? I was like, my tribe, like my people, because thick or thin, they got me. I was out at Boombox this Saturday till 5 a.m. catching up with everybody that I haven't seen in years. And my boy who I'm staying with texts me at 5 a.m. I looked outside, your car's in here. Are you good? Do you need to get picked up? And I'm like, I'm good, man. I wasn't drinking much. I'm fine. No, man, just let me know if you need me to drive out there to LA. I'm like, those are the type of people that I want to surround myself with, who are always, if I'm on their mind, they don't have a problem reaching out and letting me know.
Yeah,
You know,
100%. I definitely agree with it. And sometimes it's not like massive groups of people. Your tribe becomes smaller and smaller, especially as you get older, you go through
oh
loss.
yeah.
Especially going through loss. That was the most shocking thing for me, is everyone saying, "Oh, we're there for you. We're gonna make sure we, look
Right.
after you like a little sister," and then just like everyone disappears, like
Hmm.
everyone, and then you're left alone to like figure out like that crazy mess, right?
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
it's good. It's good when you have a few people around you, and I'm sure music has been great therapy for you, just as it
Hmm.
has been for me as well. I just want to say, DJ Omber, thank you so much for the bits. I know that was 8 minutes ago. I almost missed that, so thank you. Bless up to you as well. Yeah, and thank you for sharing that. Just listening to you, have you ever thought of motivational speaking or just like pushing out your story more because it's so powerful? And I think
Mm.
I really believe you can help not just a lot of women but a lot of men just sharing your story. Like you should really think about trying to do that more, um
I'd like to get it more into my music because after
mhm,
I think a lot of us did this after the pandemic. We kind of had that moment of clarity of what was important, what wasn't, what brought us joy out of just happiness. Because joy and happiness is a totally different thing. Fulfillment is what I was looking for after the pandemic. I
mhm.
had gone through a divorce during the pandemic.
Oh wow.
That was a whole nother experience too. Just
Mhm,
trying to recalibrate my life and figure out what my next plan or the plan would be because I thought I had a plan. And when
mhm.
that didn't unfold, it was like, okay, what do I do now? So yeah, I'm trying to get my stories into music a bit more in the future music that I'm creating because back in the day, I felt like there was too much of that being said in hip hop. There was a lot of stories being told, and they all sounded pretty similar. And even if I do sound like I do have a unique story, turns out a lot of people have very similar stories. They just don't choose to talk about it. So I think you're onto something there that I should be speaking about this stuff a bit more. I
Mhm.
just don't know if I'm in the place yet to get that detailed and stuff that can actually be archived, cataloged, and ran in
No, I
people's
hear that.
cars or at the club.
No, I
So
definitely hear that. I hear
a
that.
bit
Or
personal with it.
or even just writing a book, because that can be great
Oh, true.
therapy. But it is
Yeah.
hard. It is hard to talk about all those things and those losses. You've got to be in kind of a decent place, like because it's not easy being vulnerable, like on social media and sharing your story and
Oh,
having it
so
like
hard.
there for life, right? Like I'm actually in the middle of sharing my ex-boyfriend's story online, and I had to stop. I'm like, his anniversary just passed. I'm like, maybe I just need a break right now, right? And then I'll revisit it like little bits by bits, like pieces at a time, right? When I'm ready.
Right, right.
But I think just listening to you, like I know that will go really far. Like people will listen to you, and uh
Mm,
just by talking to you, I know you have that gift. So you should really think about it, and that
that's
story
fair.
isn't over. Like look at everything you've done from the 80s, man, all the way up to not now. Like even though sometimes you may feel like a story is over after a divorce, because that can be deep grief, going through grief too. Your story's never over. Like as long as if you have that
No, of course
heartbeat
not.
or you have that in you, it's like that's never over you know so yeah, I
Yeah.
definitely think you have some special gifts, more than just music. So I encourage you to do it, and I'm sure if he were to write something, guys, a book or something on his story, how many of you guys would purchase that? Throw some ones in the chat and be honest, don't just throw up ones. But after listening to him, like for real, you guys, how many of you guys would actually purchase that or look at that? Like throw a one in the chat for him and let him know. Do you know 3K9? Because you guys have a lot in common as well. Do you guys know each other? No? Okay.
No, maybe
This
maybe
is
through Twitch, the name is familiar, but yeah, definitely
this is
not
a
like locally. Yeah.
Okay. This is a producer out of Toronto too, and he kind of produces
Oh,
beats
cool.
on the spot. I think you two would, yeah, 9K9. Sorry, I always mess up your name. But
Word.
I think both of you guys would actually vibe a lot. 9K9, you gotta add Jace1Music. You guys gotta check each other's show. I'm such a good matchmaker,
Yeah, I'll get back.
uh,
I'll hit him back too.
with everyone.
Let's do it.
But oh yeah, he says he follows you. Yeah, because he freestyles,
Oh,
he
word. Well, now
raps.
I'm at.
Yeah, but he's
Yeah.
got that Jay Dilla type of vibe as well, and he's producing, um,
Mm,
like beats and music and different things. So I think the two of you guys together would
okay.
actually be a very good matchup, because he's kind of on that Jay Dilla type of just that vibe
Soulful
that you
hip
guys
hop.
both have. Yeah, you guys both have the exact same vibe. And to be honest with you, like this guy asked me for an interview ages ago, and poor guy, I kind of prejudged him because I thought he was a mumble rapper. I'm like, I'll get to him later.
Oh,
I'll get
shame
to
on
him.
you.
I'm like, I'll get to
Shame
him
on you.
later. And I did not check out his stuff like, well, I couldn't find. I mean, I couldn't see when he was on, but I
Yeah,
just thought he was kind of a mumble rapper. So I'm like, it's not the vibe I'm
I
really
get
looking
it. I
for.
mean, look at me. People don't think I do what I do.
But then when I watched his show, I was like, oh my goodness, I cannot believe
Right.
I thought this guy is nothing what I thought he was, and I love his show. So yeah, bad on me. I definitely, uh, you know, uh, judged. I did think he was a mumble rapper. Sorry, 9K9.
Well, this platform in general is what I've noticed. It's a different type of social media, but it's almost like it is a self-selecting following slash. I don't want to say following because most of the folks that I interact on the regular through my streams, I don't consider followers. They're friends at this point because we have so much in common. Whether it's I have a lot of sense of humor on my streams. Like I said, I don't take myself seriously to a certain point. I'm still trying to keep it sharp, if you will.
Yeah.
Um,
Hmm.
but we're there because we like the same music, we like the same jokes, we have very close to similar. We don't get into politics, but you could tell our moral compasses align, and you don't get that a lot on social media platforms like Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, Twitter, all the above.
Hmm.
Twitch, you see the ones that don't sync up just fall off. So you get that steady flow of, I always say 50 to 100 followers that are always there are better than 100,000 who didn't never show up. So
Yep.
it's
It's
even
so
that way with
true.
independent record sales. Like if you can get 500 people to buy your record at the price you asked for, you don't got to worry about becoming a million stream person. Just sell that 100, sell that 500
Exactly.
and you'll be fine.
So true. How you doing, DJ Anthony? Good to see you. Oh, thanks for the follow, DJ Anthony. Where are you from? We got DGS619 and K9, and all these guys are bugging me now. But I love you already, K9. We got to meet sometime in Toronto. Thank you, Sika Blue, for the bits. Appreciate you, DJ Amber, earlier for the bits as well. Okay, you guys, I can't believe how fast the show is gone. Like, I can't believe it's been almost 2 hours. But we're gonna play. I'm gonna have to do it from my phone because I know the Skrillextina you kind of were telling me, but I'm going to need a tutorial from you. It's definitely not working out because I have to download an MP3 and it's not working. So I'm going to play you guys a bit of his stuff. Let me know if hopefully it doesn't sound that bad. I'm going to have to play it through my phone. Let me know if you guys could hear it okay. All right. So this is The Confessions of a Sensitive Pimp, his mixtape. I'm just going to play a little bit of it and we'll definitely talk about it after. This is the mixtape that brought him to the securing the 20 shows in the West Coast, opening up for legendary acts again like De La Soul, Method Man, the Jizza, Mos Def, and so many other artists he's talked about in this interview. So let's play this, guys. Hopefully you could hear it. Does it sound okay?
Can't really hear it.
Shoot. Oh, yeah. I forgot. I got to play it in the microwave. You guys hear it? Can you hear it?
Very light.
Fill they pockets with cheese. Mad chicks on my sleeve. Don't like it till them chicks can leave. Squeeze through the club entrance with bros on my side. Feeling the vibe.
You can also drop links in the chat. if
Can you
that's
guys
easier.
hear it now?
Very little.
Oh, no?
We can share links in the chat if that works.
Can you guys hear now? No, you can't
Yeah,
hear
it's
it?
too low.
Ah, shoot. Yeah. Okay, let's see.
We could just share links. Now we can't hear you.
Oh, can you guys hear the music?
Could hear you now.
Oh,
No,
but you couldn't really hear the music?
it was way too low. Yeah.
Oh man, I cranked it up too and put it at my mic. I don't get it. Ah, okay. I got to figure this out. But if someone can just Google, we could drop his links. Actually, where could they find all your music on SoundCloud here?
Spotify,
Okay.
iTunes, all the major streaming platforms. What's up there is up there. But most of my music, like I said, the earlier stuff was shelved, so it's not out there. And if I do, I get in trouble. So,
Okay.
but if they
Yeah.
really, I mean, the best way I would say is to follow me. I'm not a big social media person. I'm quite old school. I do have an Instagram and I do have the Twitch account. So Instagram for promotional stuff. So you'll see all the shows that I do, all the events that I do, any new music that drops will be put on there. Plus on Instagram, there is the link tree. So that would direct you towards any streaming services, videos, all the above.
Yeah, if a few of you guys could do me a favor and just Google his link under his site. I know he's got a link tree, so that would be
Yeah.
helpful. Just dropping his link tree in the chat.
Or
If some of you,
Jacewonmusic.com.
okay, perfect. So yeah, if someone could just drop
I'll do
that in
that
the chat,
quick.
and I'll try to pin it. That would be great. So make sure you guys are adding him as well. Yeah, sorry guys, it didn't really work out. I thought that an MP3 would work out to play, but I tried downloading it and it's not working. And then it's just asking for video and StreamYards. And I can't even do it on another tab, but I'll figure it out next time. Okay, here we go. So it's this one here, right? Oh wait, no, this says
Yeah.
Streamlabs. Is it this? It says Streamlabs.
Yeah, that's what
Okay.
gets Jacewonmusic.com redirects to Streamlabs for now. Yeah,
Oh, okay. So would this be the right link? The bio.site, right? Forward
sure.
slash.
That would
Okay.
give a bunch of links. Yeah.
Okay. Now I'm going to try to see how I could pin this. How do I pin this, guys? Oh, man. I'm going to sound like such an amateur on my show.
You know what? I
That's
have an
okay.
idea too. Let me see if I can.
Thanks, you guys,
I
for
think I can share a
posting.
tab.
Appreciate it.
One sec.
How do I pin this, the Skrillextina? I've done it before. How do I do this? Oh man, this is why I'm not good with technology. And this is why I salute all the mods because they are brilliant. They are amazing. It took me like 2 years to figure out OBS. So I appreciate you guys, all you mods. We got Yuta K Best in the building that came in earlier too. Good to see you. Trying is half the battle. I know I never want to give up. Oh, you pinned it. You pinned it. Okay, perfect. So check the pin, you guys. Make sure you guys check out his music. It's honestly really dope. It definitely gives you that kind of Jay Dilla type of just like a nice vibe. I listened to half of his mixtape and I was definitely digging it. I had to shut off some shows on Twitch. I'm like, man, I like this vibe. So I was playing it while I was cooking earlier today, and it was great. So what's next for you as well? Because you've done obviously a lot since the '80s. You've toured, you've worked in radio. You also actually you were in an advertising and marketing firm, right? Like as a creative director too, earlier on
Yeah,
in
that's
Portland.
that's still what I do. That's what I
Oh,
do for a living. That's my day job. Yeah.
okay. So what exactly do you
Yeah.
do there then, or what are you doing there?
After that big tour, when I walked away and committed myself to going back to school and getting my degree, art degree, I went on to be a creative director for a tech company. And then they helped me get through my master program, which helped me with pursuing my human behavior science post grad. And I use that to help build brands, brand development. So I work for advertising and marketing agencies. If somebody has a new product or there's a pre-existing product like a new Nike shoe or let's say a new movie or let's say a new service that's coming out, I work with teams to kind of find out who their audience is, how they should look and feel, how should they talk, how should the marketing materials and commercial collateral, commercial, advertisements, digital advertising, how that should all be. And then we kind of just put it together, and I pitch it to the companies or the brands, corporations, and then we get the bid, we go off, we execute on the work, and then we just roll things out. So pretty much branding, I guess, is the right way to put it. And you see a lot of what I do in the trenches, like art wise, on my streams. I'm sure you've seen the overlays, the interactivity, the motion graphics, the logos, the merch. All my album art has always been done by me. Yeah, that's pretty much what I do. Yeah.
Oh, wow. So if you could
Yeah.
do anything, like if you had anything you would want to do with your music, or actually maybe touring artists, you have toured with some really big artists, but if there could be any, maybe even a few artists you would want to tour with that are either alive or passed away, who would that be to you? Like, what artists would that be?
Atmosphere, for sure. I've talked about wanting to rap with Slug before, and getting approached by Rhyme Series back in the 2000s. I thought that was going to come to fruition. It didn't, because walked away. But Rhyme Series, anybody on Rhyme Series, Brother Ali, Slug, old school though, Slick Rick, Ice Cube, old school, not the newer stuff. So it's really hard to say dead or alive. It'd probably be Ice Cube, Mos Def. Let's see, who else? Redman.
Nice. I could see you doing that with all
Yeah.
of them. Have you tagged? You should definitely tag, like maybe do a cover of their songs and do something creative with it and start tagging them. Either doing it, taking snippets of you DJing some of their work and just tagging them, or even
Right.
doing a freestyle or something with them, because it does get seen. Like, I mean, I
Oh
tagged,
yeah.
I
Yeah.
always tell the story. I tagged Angie Martinez. I'm like, she's such an inspiration to me, her talk shows, and Tamron Hall. And she took my story and reposted it on her
Mhm.
page. Like, she didn't have to do that for me, right? So I've done that with
Yeah.
a few artists, and they've been receptive. Destra, soca artists, and a few others. So I don't know. Have you ever thought of, like, maybe in this new age of social media, doing something like that too? Because you got the skill.
Yeah.
People just need to see it more.
Yeah, I get that from my peers, my family, but also, like, I still have those connections.
Mhm.
I still have those doors that are open if I want to pursue them. But I truly am not trying to become that anymore. I'm really, I'm knocking on 50's door. So
Mm.
touring, I really don't want to tour anymore. Just this past week, I've had a show with House Shoes. If anybody really, knows underground hip hop, street corner music, they know who House Shoes is. That's family. Rev Shines, that's family. There's a lot of guys that are still doing it, that are in the business, to where if I
Mhm.
really wanted to tap their shoulder and say, hey man, get me in here, get me in there, it would happen. Hell, even De La Soul, I could hit Pos up and say, hey man, I just don't want to open that door right now, because it would bring on a whole nother world that I just really am not sure if I want to get involved in, especially nowadays, because it has become, music and touring has become, like I said, more of a commodity. You have to really sound a certain way for you to really hit that echelon. And
Mhm.
I'm not seeking that anymore. What I'd rather do is just almost kind of like what Rob Boombastic does on his show on Twitch, is I want to share good music with my friends and my
Mhm.
peers. And as that audience grows, especially on Twitch, it's been incredible. So I think I'm up over 1,000 followers now, which isn't a lot compared to the DJs that tour and have clubs and shows every week. But for someone who doesn't do a lot, it reminded me that, yeah, people do enjoy what I do and how I deliver it. And I'd rather keep that where it is right now, and then
Mhm.
continue to focus on helping businesses, small businesses, medium-sized businesses, and every now and then getting a little taste of that, the larger business, the larger brand, when it comes my way. But I like being in control of that rather than having other people tell me what to do and where I should be
Mhm.
going. not you, but the other businesses and labels, because that's what it
No, I
becomes.
get that. I get that
Yeah.
100%. And that's so great that you stick to your convictions and your values
Yeah.
and just like what you want to do to preserve your brand, you know? Because I think
Yeah.
it's just all a matter of time for more people to see you, especially on Twitch. You do a
Mhm.
special show, and that's all it pretty much takes because you already have, the magic kind of formula
Yeah.
as well. So yeah, so make sure again everyone's adding Jacewonmusic, you guys, in the room.
Please do.
Uh, yeah, and there's some interesting stories here. Like 9K9 says he did that with Radman, like the joint, and with Pete Rock as well, tagging them. And let's see here. He also says he really feels what you're saying and respects it too, which I agree. And this girl, Xtina, same thing happened to her. Her teenage musical crush, Donnie from New Kids on the Block, and now he's
Oh, nice.
following this girl, Xtina. So, along with other things that they had. We won't go into this show, but you could
I
check
do
out
have
Xtina.
I do have one project that I was kind of holding it back and don't really want to talk about it because it isn't really panned out yet. But
Hmm.
I am going to do something similar to what you're doing here, where I will be um, not leveraging, but tapping into the network and my peers that I have had over the past 30 years plus. Um, try to have these type of conversations that are more like what we had today, which is more about what happens behind the scenes and or has it changed. And that's going to be happening late this year. I'm going to call it the winner's circle. It's kind of a play off of the Jace One
Hmm.
type thing, where I'll have my peers who are out there doing the thing. We'll have these candid conversations, very select conversations, though. I'm not going to open it up to a wide audience. It's going to be just the people that I really respect, look up to. And if the opportunities come, like even with K9, I have conversations with him, just people who are really into the music, into the culture, into the trials and tribulations that come with it, anybody who's invested in it. And of course, fun people, interesting people with good ears like Blockbuster Music, DGS 619, Boombastic, Rob Boombastic as well. Y'all need to follow that guy if you want to know some new up and coming underground real hip hop. Like you said at the beginning of the show, hip hop isn't dead. It's just not really got the light on it these days. You know.
Hmm. For sure. And yeah, and I think that's great, doing a talk show and that sort of thing. That's going to open you up too. And if
Yeah.
you already have the circle of people, then that's perfect.
Right.
You know how to
Yeah.
talk and communicate. So yeah, I see that definitely working for you. So I usually just leave just with the last couple questions. Well, the last question I always kind of leave. Uh, Things with. I have to figure out a way to rephrase this question because we've definitely
Sure.
lost so many people, but I always like
Mm.
going obviously a bit deeper. And, I always wonder what would be on people's life bucket list. So the question I usually asked before in the past was, say if you had limited time to live here, like what would you want that to look like? What would be on your life bucket list to do
Mm.
uh, before you left here? What would that look like to you?
Mm. Yeah, I've done a lot of what was on that list. I do have a list.
Like not even
It's already been.
music, probably not even music related,
Yeah,
but just like
it would
life,
be
like.
outside of music for sure.
Mhm.
Yeah, it would be. I'd like to live in Ireland.
Hmm.
Yeah,
Nice.
Dublin or Cork to be specific. Um, Mainly just to tap into that root system. And I've been out there and I've really enjoyed it. I've lived in a lot of places. In that place for I would just assume that it has to do with my lineage. When I was there, at the times that I was there, it felt like a home.
Mhm.
Uh, so yeah, I'd like to live there for a while. That'd be fun. As far as travels go, I have traveled the world. I've seen a lot of places. I've spent extensive time at places. Music stuff, I feel like I'm in a good place with that. I have a few minor music goals that I would still like to hit. Do music with certain people within my network that just we haven't been able to link up. Timing just hasn't been right. Um, but yeah, to be honest, it was the radio thing was on the bucket list that I could never achieve because I walked away from it because of
Mhm.
being just upset with it. But the Twitch platform has really scratched that itch. I'm gonna keep it real. Like
Yeah.
being able to do my show the way I want to do my show and
Mhm.
attract the type of people that are down with me and the way that I interact and the music that I play and how I do it. That's been very fulfilling. So it's almost like that has been knocked off the list via Twitch. So very thankful for that.
For sure. And you are like a TV producer and a DJ. Like you're producing basically your own show. Do you think
Right.
streaming can overtake radio stations right now? I believe it. Like,
Hmm.
I would have my manager laugh at me at this big hip hop station out here in
Sure.
Canada. He would always laugh like, Twitch, what's that? Like kind of thing. But I'm thinking in my head, and this guy worked with like all the major,
Hmm.
stations across the states and came to Toronto. But I'm thinking in my head, man, you got such an old school mentality because streaming
Yep.
is going to oversee. And now they're having problems with advertising and
Yeah.
getting that back up, even on TV, not just on, because like even our phones are the new TV, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
do you think that apps like streaming apps can really take over radio stations or the way things have been done, like online?
I think the advertising foundation of radio, because that's what radio is, as we said at
Mhm.
the top of the interview. That's what it's about. It's not about the music. It's about getting people in with the music and then advertising to them. So as long as people are selling ads and people are responding to them, radio will always be there. But
Mhm.
we've already seen them kind of merge left and right across the world. So, and you're also seeing major DJs, the guys that I grew up respecting, have Twitch shows, and they are on those Twitch shows more than they are on their radio station. So I think that kind of tells you where it's headed.
Yeah, it's so
Yeah.
true. That's very, very true. So, well, and how long has it been for you? Has it been 2 year or sorry, how long has it been on Twitch for you? It's been pretty recent, I
My
think, right?
4-year anniversary
Oh,
will
4 years, okay.
be April 27th.
Okay,
Yeah.
April 27th. So yeah, if there's anything you want to say to everyone that's here, like anything you kind of want to promote, obviously your show or any kind of upcoming projects you kind of want to showcase to people, like just let them know where they could find you or how
Sure.
they could support you.
Yeah. First and foremost, I'll be at the Hawk Bar this Friday, um, playing a set with Soluz. Um, who else? A few other local DJs. I've just met them this week. But yeah, it's at the Hawk Bar. It's going to be nothing but down tempo, trip hop, instrumental vibes, very chill, very relaxed. I'll be there spinning that night. That's Friday, Long Beach. Other than that, when I get back to Portland this Saturday, I'll have my next show on Monday, which is the Rock Garden. That's all classic rock on vinyl. It's like funky blues rock. I typically do tributes where I'll tribute an artist from the 60s or 70s. Sometimes we drift into the 80s, but for the most part, it's 70s. And then the following Fridays, it's always Monday and Fridays. Monday's rock, and then Friday's my hip hop, Golden Boombox sessions. That's all golden era, future classic hip hop. Those are the two things that I really like to promote because I feel like I'm getting the most fulfillment myself, selfishly. But also, you get to see who I am, what I'm about. I interact with y'all. I play the music that I feel like you guys need to hear or revisit. And that's my main focus right now is building that tribe and definitely working on music projects. I like to keep that stuff hush until it's already done, and then I can start to hype it up.
Hmm.
The Winner Circle talk show is going to be coming as well, but that's still in the works, like I said. But in the nature of this show itself, it's like I'll have something that's very complimentary to what you do here, and I'm really excited about that.
Awesome. So make sure you guys are adding him, guys. Jacewonmusic. Just want to thank you so much for doing this
Of
interview. It
course.
was awesome learning more about you and just your story. I think is really powerful and just everything you've gone through up until this point, and definitely cheering for you. So we'll
Thank
definitely
you.
keep in touch. I'm just
Yeah.
wondering if there's anyone you would like to raid into. I was just looking here as well. I don't know if you
Let's
can
look.
see anyone online that you support or would like to support, let me know as well. And I want to thank you
Yeah.
guys for coming through today to the Honeyflow show. It was awesome learning more about him. 9K9, you got a 3K9. You guys got to connect as well too.
Oh, indeed. Well, definitely. I'll tap in. I didn't know he was already following. I might be following him as well and just haven't caught streams or whatnot. Because typically, whoever follows me, I follow back. That's just how you keep it moving, right?
Hmm.
But yeah,
Yes.
DJ Cool Kurt. Let's do Cool Kurt. That's family from across the states.
Okay. Let's see. I wonder if you could type in his, is it Cold Kurt, or if you could type in his
Cool
name.
Kurt. It's
Oh, cool.
DJ
Oh,
and then
Cold Kurt, right?
DJ KOOLCURT. Cool Kurt.
Oh,
DJ
cool.
Cool Kurt.
DJ Cool Kurt. Okay. Oh, I don't think I'm following him. Okay. Let's see here. Okay. So I just
Fair.
followed him. Do you guys have, oh, yes, there it is. So if we could raid DJ Cool Kurt, if you guys could do that, that would be great. We'll raid in and you guys could take my raid message. If you go !RO, you'll get the raid message as well. But if we could set up the raid, that would be good. Thank you guys again for coming through the Honeyflow show. It was awesome. Always great to sit down with some real people, and, had the honor to just interview so many great people. But it's always refreshing sitting down with someone that kind of gets the industry and really, really, understands it. So yeah, it was definitely a great, fun interview.
Thank you for having me, for sure, because you're a real one as well. I had no idea about your losses that you mentioned earlier. So yeah, you get it.
Yeah. Oh, trust me, I get it to a T. So that's why I mentioned you should really push out your story, and we go through all these trials and heartaches sometimes to just speak to people. That's the main mission. I think that's the main purpose, to help other people that are kind of there, right? That's what I'm trying to work on. That's why I kind of stopped all my regular shows, and I'm like, you know what? I think I need to concentrate on. It's uncomfortable, but I'm going to try my best to really push that story out, because that's my goal, for it to be on a stage someday, like for people, right? But Twitch is practice. Yeah, Twitch is definitely practice, but it's awesome meeting someone that gets it, because a lot of people just don't, right? So it's nice to know that someone else like understands. Okay, let's see. I wonder if I'm not sure if it went through. Did it go through, you guys? I think it did.
Yes, it did. I see it on the phone.
Okay, sometimes I rate like a few, like maybe twice, because it always misses people too. Okay, let's see. Yeah, so it looks like it missed like 6 or 7 people here. Okay, so we're going to raid out. I'll raid out one more time, and I think we're good. Yeah, I would love to definitely have you back on my show again too. So we'll definitely arrange
I'd
that.
love to be on, and we could either talk deeper about the subjects that we just covered, or we can just talk about music in general. That'd be great.
Yeah, for sure. That'd be awesome. Yeah, sounds good. Well, thank you so much. Have a great night, and we will definitely see each other in these Twitch streets then too. Okay.
Take care.
All right. Take care. Have a great night too.
You too.
See ya. See you guys.